a little greased up right now. It's my birthday. So.
You know what? I just started the recording. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? We talked about this. No. Spontaneously, in honor of Bit Day, we are going to come up with an improv. Please don't sue us for this being a parody of a song we're not allowed to publicly say. Oh, come on. Who doesn't want to sing Bit a happy Bit Day? You know, happy Bit Day to him. That's like...
Thank you. I like that. Bit Day. That's awesome.
Well, if we say what it actually is, we will get sued by...
That's true. That is true. I know.
Yeah, it's like, and we can get away with it because Bit starts with a B, and it's like, you know... Okay, you know what? You're becoming a freaking prophet here, and we were saying this in the. We're now
becoming a what?
You were having endless Skype problems last week, and I now know why. Skype was just reacting to the giant enema was about to get.
Oh, you mean Microsoft?
Yes. It knew it was coming. We didn't, but it knew.
Lord. Yeah. I hope it's a good thing. I hope. That's all we can say is I hope.
Well, here's the thing. I would almost rather Google have bought it. All we can say is we can do our Hail Marys or praise gods or whatever that
Zuckerberg didn't get it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It could, as bad as it is that it's Microsoft. Just think, it could have been the Zuckerberg.
That's the lesser of two evils.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we wouldn't be sitting here questioning about, well, maybe it won't be so bad like we are with Microsoft. We're like we're pretty sure something's going to happen, but we can still be delusional enough to be filled with hope that maybe Microsoft has learned its lesson, and when they say they're going to continue to support non-Microsoft platforms, that they really mean it. We can pretend that with Microsoft. It may or may not happen, but we can pretend that. With Facebook, we could not pretend
that. Microsoft does do some good things. I mean, I'm going to say that they've made lots of improvements. I think that Windows is becoming far better operating. Well, let me put it this way. I left being an Apple user for NT, not for Windows 95, not for Windows 98, certainly not for Windows 2000, but their Windows NT engine that they had with Windows 3.1 and 4. I liked the direction they were going, and then they fell off with me. And then XP comes along. It was pretty good, but terrible in security. Then Vista I consider the whipping boy or buffer, and I think that they finally are getting the groove back. With Windows 7. But other good products. Some people, I know when you get. I don't want to get into console wars. Holy crap! I don't even own an Xbox. I don't even own a PlayStation 3. I do now own a Wii. I just got a Wii for my oldest son.
You know what?
But Xbox is pretty good.
Everybody has to have a Nintendo.
I have three of them.
Well, hey, and I am a big Zune HD fan. I like the Zune HD. I think it's awesome at what it does.
Here's my concern with Skype. How is Microsoft going to try and monetize it? Because you don't make a $8 billion purchase without plans of monetizing it. I don't think Microsoft is the type of company that could realize...
Well, let's look at it this way. Remember when we were discussing cell carriers and why is AT&T looking at T-Mobile? The infrastructure is already there. When you buy an infrastructure that the logistics and it's been all the kinks, all the bugs are worked out, that's almost a priceless thing, rather than building it yourself.
Oh yeah, no, I know that, and honestly, Skype has value without monetizing it at all. I mean, you could leverage just being the provider of Skype to be something of considerable value without monetizing Skype. But Microsoft does not strike me as the type of company that would do that.
Right.
Microsoft strikes me as the type of company that, like, what is it? Every time we sign into Skype, are we going to get a "buy this thing" ad? It's like the free 1411. This 1411 brought to you by blah 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 blah. I was like, is that what Skype's going to turn into? It's like,
well, it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, like I said, there's not much advertising on my Zoom.
But you bought your Zoom.
Yeah, I did. That's true. Well, don't think isn't there money involved right now with Skype in terms of, my wife uses Skype heavily for making phone calls to her home country, Guatemala, like if it's calling a cell phone or a landline.
There is a Skype service to have it serve also as a phone line. Not like we use it where we're calling Skype to Skype, but if you want a VoIP account only where it goes through an interchange that takes it back to the normal phone system, yes, that's a paid service. And
yeah, because I know she pays. She's got a whole deal with Skype, so she can call Guatemala, and Skype, I think, turns out to be the cheapest so far. Sometimes there's a special with some other service that may be 1 or 2 pennies cheaper, but she's stuck with Skype. My mother-in-law, who lives with me, also calls her family in Guatemala, and she doesn't like it. She doesn't know too much of the computer, but she'll get on my wife's iMac. She knows how to fire up Skype, and then we have like the stored phone numbers, and she calls from there. And that all bills us, we pay them for that service. So.
Yeah. Well, I have 2 concerns here with it being Microsoft. Concern 1 is they're going to discontinue the Linux version. Like they'll see the entry.
Really? You think so? Why? The code's already there. I mean, maybe an update. I mean, look,
they could dead end it.
They could.
Yeah, or basically we're going to update the other platforms, but not Linux.
Okay, but they could. But I still want to know why would they?
Microsoft has said several times that basically there's some sour grapes there between Microsoft and Linux, and Microsoft.
I thought that was like old news.
No,
like stuff.
There's the sour grapes for the server thing, but honestly, Microsoft has acknowledged, given the way the desktop market's going, that they honestly consider Linux and BSD more of a threat than Apple, because Apple is a total package solution. That's not one-to-one.
Actually, no, I would disagree with that. I think that they don't perceive Apple as a threat because Microsoft's core is business. And Apple, I mean, I don't want to piss any Apple fans off. I'm sorry, that's not their forte. Business is not their deal. No, I was actually disappointed in them leaving enterprise, especially when they canceled the Xserve and everything.
Well, but say honestly, why I get what you're saying because you like Apple from the Apple perspective, but it honestly made sense for Apple to cancel the Xserve thing because it was such an uber niche market. And people were not buying them,
That's right, because they were not providing the same services as say Red Hat Linux and maybe SUSE and all them. Because if they provided and they actually delved into it, and I've always pushed them. I said, well, okay, if you're not going to license out OS 10 for us consumers, license it out to IBM, HP. You can compile it for Itanium. You can compile it for now to run on Spark servers. You can compile it to run on Power chips, and you can compete in enterprise. And those vendors would take OS 10 as another operating system to offer as an enterprise solution. Had Apple worked on OS 10 server to do that kind of thing, because IBM just as well will sell you an AMD chip or an Intel chip. They'll sell you a Windows software with IBM.
Honestly, have you been pricing these? If you're not going to go like Itanium or something, have you been pricing these multi-core AMD arrays as of late?
No, sure.
Yeah, they're cheap, and you can get way more processing power than a traditional Intel or other thing. And they're cheap. They're these cheap little array systems.
Yeah, I think AMD. Or wait, no, AMD was at the top spot of supercomputing with, I mean, several hundred cores. And I think IBM may have just one up them or something, but it's always, I know, an exponential amount of cores. But I mean, that's a totally different type of computing when you get into that like massive parallel.
All the cores and power. It's really about uptime, and that's really the highest priority, right? You don't want your service to go down, God forbid. You know, you lose millions of dollars. You know.
Well, okay, it depends on a couple of things. One of the things that's budding right now is cloud-based services, and for cloud-based services, your processing capability is very important because your server is effectively doing all the work. You know, here's the pendulum that goes on in the server market. Okay, I want to offload everything over to the client, and I want my server doing almost none of the work. Okay, I want to move everything back over to the server, and I want my client to be doing none of the work, so that a baby device, a baby device meant for a 2-year-old can do it. And it's like, and it goes back and forth, and back and forth, and it's, you know.
You know, for my own website, when I finish it, and you and I were discussing this, is that because I'm going to have Ruby hosted on one server, which will delegate most of the framework for. Like I'm having a blog that's being built, and the blog's main infrastructure is built in Ruby. But the commenting section, because I'm through with all the templates. I don't like any of the templates that are out there. The commenting section to my blogs is built in Python and running on a separate server that runs Django. So, you know, that's coming from a different server. So and essentially a lot of people are using like this parallel hosting, so that you do ease the pressure just on one. And let me tell you, I do argue that I don't necessarily like the frameworks, like, and I know I'll get flamed from Ruby on Rails people on it, but I come from a Microsoft environment that I enjoy programming extensively for the database server. And I want all my database stuff on the database server and the load on the database server. And I don't want to have to worry. I know, like, we can rake everything over. We build these wonderful objects, and we can build another gem in, and we rake it again over, and we have the database and everything executed with Ruby. But see, I prefer to go to compiled code on a stored procedure within a SQL or within a database environment, whether it's Oracle, Sybase, Microsoft SQL, and that SQL server balances the load against what I publish, you know, to the web, rather than the actual web server doing all the work. And that's something that plays heavily into this load balancing act that we're discussing.
Well, no, and it's not just that. It honestly depends, like, what your budget is, and a couple dozen other things. Because if you can afford to spend at least $1,000 to $1,500 a month, if you can afford that, then you're going to want to do exactly what you're saying. Because even if you get the real reason people try and avoid that scenario is because too many parallel sessions. You know, what can bring you to a oh dear God crashing point is all of a sudden you go from like an average user load of 10 to 100 people to 1,000 or so, and then if your box doesn't have enough scaling, it just can't do it. But if you can actually afford to spend some money on your hosting, that's a non-issue, and you're going for the best balanced solution, which you always wind up coming back to, you know what, I'm going to use this really powerful server machine so that the end user has this best experience and isn't having their machine do all the work for me. And it's a balancing act. And unfortunately, the primary determining factor is the budget, and can you either afford to lease the technical expertise, or do you have the technical expertise to manage it yourself?
Well, let's bring it back to Linux and what we're discussing, and why would Microsoft not program or you know, maintain, I guess would be the correct word, Skype on Linux. I think even though Linux is a severe threat to Microsoft has shown, at least in my
attachment bought out SUSE.
Say that again.
What?
Doesn't Microsoft own attachment, and an attachment bought out SUSE and Novell?
I'm not sure on that.
What he said, I can't hear. What did he say?
He was talking about Microsoft buying out SUSE.
Linux SUSE, he's going to...
No,
really?
Zeus.
Oh, Zeus. Oh, okay.
S-U-N-C. Oh, SUSE, whatever the hell it's called.
What? Microsoft didn't buy SUSE.
Yeah, that's Novell.
That's Attachmate, but Attachmate bought out SUSE, Novell.
That's news to me if that happened. I'm not aware of Microsoft owning it.
Way back then. Do a search on SUSE.
Huh.
That's when SUSE.
Man, talk about Novell in the old days when they owned all the network product. You know, when everything was like Novell and their network operating system. And I even went for a certified network administrator and engineer back in the day.
Oh no, back in the day. Oh, God, you know, people who remember way back in the day, you know, before operating systems included the stuff to set up a network and actually connect to the internet on their stuff. All of that was done by Novell. You know, it was just, you had your Novell app that kind of, and you had to like put everything in manually, and it's just, you actually had to know how the internet worked to make a network work. It was just, none of this plug-in.
Let's think about, okay, Microsoft's after Skype. My theory is, because it's a badass infrastructure, the kinks are worked out, it works great, it's on almost every other platform. It's on all mobile platforms that run, and except for maybe WebOS, my version. I think the newer WebOS is, because Verizon refuses to give, I can't even get the damn 1.4.51 update. But anyway, that's a side story. I think that they are after another service that quite frankly, I'm interested, is this going to supplant MSN? Or are they going to be... Oh,
no. See, that's the thing. I'm convinced that this is going to be homogenized. I mean, if we're honest, MSN doesn't even really exist anymore. It's all about the Microsoft... It's all the live service now. All of this stuff is going under the live umbrella. And what here's what I think is going to happen with Skype. I think it's going to work its way into Xbox Live. And I think it's going to work its way into the live system, but rather they're going to keep it under the Skype name or make it a Microsoft Live service that happens to be on other platforms for now.
What about bandwidth then? I mean, because that's extending. I mean, Skype's got an infrastructure right now for the user demographics it supports currently. But we're saying let's open it up to Xbox, perhaps Messenger, because if they're homogenized into it.
If they're going to do what I think they're going to do, they're basically just going to add some code to an update for the Xboxes and to the Windows Live service that will basically allow that service to talk to Skype. It's not like they're trying to overload it more. It's just basically like if somebody tries to Skype you while you're playing Xbox 360 and you're using the Xbox Live, talk thing and stuff, you'll get a little flash like, by the way, do you want to answer this phone call? It's like, and so on and so forth. I would see Microsoft.
Okay, wait a minute. All right, let's think about this though. Let's say that they don't homogenize anything. That this is kind of like, remember the codec wars? What about if this is that Microsoft is thinking everything's going to be video calling, all this other stuff. We're going to go ahead and bite the bullet. We're going to buy an infrastructure that's already in place and runs on every damn platform, and we already have a head start against the competition, and start licensing out, whether it's mobile or desktop or whatever the hell is going to be the new format for the future. Because video calling becomes the primary means of internet communication.
Well, it kind of already is.
Now, will this be pre-installed with Windows 8?
Oh, I'm sure it will be. Because it's now owned by Microsoft. I'm sure it'll be in there.
Do you think it'll be rebranded as, Messenger?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Is Microsoft going to begin rebranding Skype, or are they going to leave it Skype?
Or are they just called Microsoft Skype? It's just like VirtualBox, you can start with something.
Well, that's something that is something to think about. This could be very much like when Microsoft bought Front Page. You know, they just rebranded it as a Microsoft product, and they made some minor tweaks to it that made it less compatible with non-Microsoft stuff.
It didn't work with IE.
No, it worked fine with IE once they did the tweak. But it's like if you ever made tables in Front Page, it did the.
On the record, I have always hated Front Page. I hated it. I tried to eliminate Front Page as well as Flash back in the day. I was a document object model guy, except browser engines dictated how much of the document object model you could use. But
right.
I hated Front Page. Oh God, did I hate Front Page.
Before or after Microsoft bought them? Front
Page extensions. Please go to hell.
That's something different altogether. But yes, I so know what you're talking about there. Oh dear Lord. Anyways, you know.
This is like old school stuff I'm bringing back, man.
Oh God. Anyways, yeah, and basically then you had to manage everything through Front Page, and it's like, you know what, this was my solution to that. For those of you who have no idea what you're talking about, well, that's your problem. What I would do is I would go in and I would turn Front Page extensions off. I'd go do this very simple thing I want to do, and then I would turn them back on to make the Front Page stuff work. I would never go through Front Page to do all of this stuff, ever. I'm like, well, you're going to hijack everything? You're going to turn you the fuck off while I do something very, very simple, very, very quickly. And if everything's not working while I'm doing that, well, fuck the end user. So that was my official stance on that, because it was just 10 times harder to do it through the Front Page extensions. Something simple, like I want to change the password to a directory. It's like, no, stop.